they can enter the room. So thank you all for coming tonight to our Adjunct Professor Teacher Training Institute informational section. I am Dr. Candace Chambers, and I serve as the head instructor for the Institute. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So in the chat or aloud, I do kind of want to know who's in the room. So if you could just tell me your city and state, and then the subject area you're seeking to teach as an adjunct professor.
I'm driving. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So, my name is Vaughn Inslee, and I'm calling from Texas, Dallas, Texas. And I think you want I'm sorry. Is that what?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, what subject areas are you interested in teaching?
Oh, I'm interested in education.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
And then, Crystal, are you able to talk? Okay, it's okay if not. Oh,
I am. I'm sorry.
Okay. No problem. You don't have to turn your camera off if you don't. Okay,
it's okay.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm well.
So what was the question again? I'm sorry.
All right, give us your name and then your subject area that you're interested in teaching.
Okay, Crystal Walker. Interested in two subjects. So anything biblical studies and public administration.
Excellent. Where are you from?
Indianapolis, Indiana.
Beautiful. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So here's our agenda, and I won't hold you all too long tonight. I just want to make sure I give a good overview of what the Institute entails. So we had our introductions. You'll learn a little bit about me and the company. I'll give an overview of the Institute, the curriculum outline, the deliverables, the application logistics, and then we'll do Q&A. All right. And so here's a bit about me. So I am the CEO of Educational Writing Services, which hosts the Training Institute. I started teaching on a collegiate level in 2016. So this is my 9th year teaching. And so I've taught at the University of Alabama, University of North Carolina at Greensboro, Georgia Military College, Central Piedmont Community College, North Carolina A&T State University, and Ashland University. And so the schools I named on the back end of this were all adjunct positions. And so I like to get a feel of different student populations. So that's why it's so many schools. And I like to kind of dibble and dabble in different population environments. But those have been the institutions. So I've taught online, including synchronous, asynchronous. I've taught hybrid settings and then also in person, which I try to at least have at least one in person and one online each semester. So I've won a couple of teaching awards that are here. I primarily teach English composition, so professional writing, business writing, entrepreneurial writing, freshman composition. And then my PhD is in curriculum and instruction from the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. My master's in English from the University of Alabama, and then my bachelor's is in English education from Jackson State University. So that's just a little bit about me. And then Education Writing Services was founded in 2017. And so we provide editorial services, college coaching, community-based workshops, everything's still rooted in this idea of writing. So I'll talk about that as we continue on. But as far as the workshop arm, that's where the Training Institute falls. So we have online classes, Training Institute, and so we've hosted informational opportunities about adjunct professorship since 2021. It's YouTube online classes, and then this is our second iteration of the Training Institute under the company's arm. So I just want to start us off with looking at adjunct professorship as far as what the landscape is looking like. And so you may have read some articles, seen, some news stories, but I thought I'd pull a few articles here just to kind of lay some groundwork. One from the Columbia Chronicle discusses how adjunct instructors in higher education continue to cope with job uncertainty because adjunct professorship is such a flexible type of position. Sometimes adjuncts don't get classes every semester, or adjunct professors face a constant struggle to not give up. That really alludes to more so that campus community that they often seek. And then lastly, one article I thought was pretty cool was adjunct instructors deserve training. A lot of adjuncts are hired and they're like, hey, when you finally get through the interview stage, you're like, hey, here's a class. And they're like, here you go. They just throw you in. So a lot of adjuncts, including myself, I've experienced where they just give you the class and you have to pretty much figure it out. So that's pretty much the state of where we are right now with adjunct professorship. And so this training is grounded in a few sentiments from people who are interested in this field. One is, I would love to teach, but I do not have any formal teaching experience. And that's a lot of people. I've only taught in K-12 settings. How do I transfer over to college settings? I enjoy training people at my job, leading youth groups with a nonprofit or being a guest speaker. How do I transfer those skills for my application? So more so community-based teaching. How do you translate that into the college classroom? I also convey that in your documents, application documents. I keep applying, but I never hear back. I just graduated with my doctorate. How can I utilize it to make a difference? And then I've landed the position, but no one has given me information on how to navigate assessment, curriculum development, or student engagement. All right. So sometimes people fall within one of these camps as far as thinking about this role in the scope of it. So that's pretty much where the Institute came from. And so today we're just going to talk through what this entails. So just an overview, tailored lessons to assist aspiring and current professors with preparing for an adjunct position, the creation of deliverables to add to an application portfolio to stand out, insights into student engagement, learning management, platform navigation, syllabus creation, and curriculum development. And we also have testimonies from guest speakers, which I'll talk about that in just a second, but we'll dive in. Before I get into content, I thought it would be cool to pull some of my students' pictures and put them on the slides, because at the end of the day, we talk about teaching, we talk about pedagogy, we talk about, all the things, right? But at the end of the day, our students are what matter most. Their experience, their learning experience, their goals, their dreams, that matters. And how we cultivate those environments is very, very important. So I just wanted to make sure I grounded another ground, I guess. I have a lot of things I'm grounded it in, but one of the most important reasons is because of our students. So before I move on, I do want to know like some of the reasons you all want to be an adjunct professor. So you can just come off of mute. This is the last time I'll ask these open-ended questions, but what is your why? Anybody want to share why you want to become an adjunct professor?
Sure, I can go first.
Okay, awesome.
Let's see. So I've been in this teaching profession, going on 28 years, and I've been an administrator probably for the last 13 years. And I've taught, my background is elementary, but I'm at the high school level for the last 8 years. But I really miss working with kids. I really do, or working with students. And I just want to, I'm not saying that I want to do this like full time,
right,
but I do want to get back in front of young learners or like college age learners and who are the higher ed, started elementary, I'm at secondary level. I'm like, oh, I'm interested in college level. So I just really want to get back. I really miss the teaching part of my job because I deal with a lot of administrative pieces.
Yeah.
So I just miss kids or miss teaching. Miss teaching.
Right.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. To see that, because you're a teacher at heart and you really want to be back in the classroom, in addition to your full-time job, of course, but making that difference on the classroom level. I like that. All right. Yes, Crystal.
Okay. Yeah, so I am a teacher at heart as well, although teaching is not my profession. I work in public service, so I'm the manager of housing at United Way.
Okay.
And I'm also in real estate, and I'm also a minister. So a lot of things. So my experience teaching currently is ministry. My church, I have classes online that I teach on my own. That I've been doing for about 5 years. So those are just Bible studies and inspirational messages, things like that. I love to teach a concept and someone get that clarity and gain that understanding. That gives me so much joy. And I guess that you all can relate being teachers at heart. So that alone is my drive. And I'm like, you know what? I do it. I don't get paid for the ministry side. So I do it out of my heart. So I was thinking like, you know what? I'm good at this. I'm gifted at it. Why not translate it over and see what it's like to adjunct? So my bachelor's is in biblical studies, but my master's and doctorate that I'm currently working on finishing is public administration. So you probably will get into that later as to what we can teach related to our degrees, but both of those areas, anything outreach, anything ministry is what I'm interested in teaching and what I love.
Excellent. Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much. All right, awesome. So we share some interests as far as like our why and the purpose for being in the classroom. There are some people who just want to be a professor just to get, extra check on the side. And, it has to be a little bit more than that. And so here's overview of the Institute. It is designed, like I said before, for aspiring and current adjunct professors with little to no teaching experience. We will talk through research-based and practice-based information for the role. So I'm really big into looking at what the research has stated, but also, what are some just practice-based things that you could do in the classroom as far as like tips and strategies. Participants build a sense of community. So because each week they talk to each other, get information, hear insights from other participants, and overall thinking about like building a coalition, but also just having contacts and resource people who are on that same journey. Like I said before, aspiring people and also current. So here's the nitty gritty of everything as far as the curriculum. So it is an 8-week institute. It's once a week. It is virtual. And it runs from April 23rd to June 11th. And so just like we're meeting here right now, it's from 7 to 8, either on a Wednesday or a Thursday, but I'll get into that in just a second. So I'll go through these topics so you know exactly what they entail. And so week 1 is your why, so preparing for the role. That's where we will talk through identifying your why, like I said, finding adjunct positions, like where to look, looking at learning about different schools and like how do you see like what would be a good fit for you, understanding different student populations, modalities. Also, we will dive into your documents, so your application documents, how to leverage the resume or the CV, whichever one will allow you to show your experiences in more detail to align with the position. Looking at the cover letter and also the teaching philosophy. So that is week 1. Week 2 will be sharing what you know, so curriculum and syllabus development. In this week, we will dive into developing a curriculum. Sometimes adjuncts, are offered or provided a curriculum that is already put in place. Sometimes you may get a position and that particular class does not have a curriculum, it just has maybe some objectives. And so you have to develop that curriculum out. So we'll discuss both sides of the fence. So because just in case you get both of those scenarios. So developing a curriculum, developing course objectives, outlining the syllabus in a college context and what that looks like, creating assignments for college students, and then also identifying course policies and what does that look like for in-person teaching, but also online teaching. The next week, we will talk through setting the pace. And so that includes scheduling and lesson planning. And so we'll talk through creating a course schedule. And so, like I said, what that looks like as far as what assignments are usually due for each class period, and it always depends on virtual, in-person. Also, we'll talk through pacing. If you are teaching an in-person class, what does that look like from the time the kids come into the door to the time the students leave? And then if it's online, what does that weekly module look like as far as pacing? And then also major and minor assignments, daily lesson plan, like I said, and then virtual and in-person pacing. So just making sure that the students don't have so much dumped on them at one time, but you're even able to keep up with your grading as well because the course is paced pretty well. For that next week, we'll talk through virtual and in-person student engagement. It builds on week 3. And that's where we discuss setting that welcoming environment, looking at how do you engage students virtually, and then also how do you engage students in person? What type of in-class activities are great for our Gen Z students? And then also for students who are non-traditional, students who may be full-time students that you're teaching, graduate students, things of that nature, but how do you create that in-person student engagement? So we'll talk through that on week 4. And then week 5 is all about the tech. So navigating technology. And so one topic is the learning management platform. And so we'll talk through Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, the popular ones that you may encounter. We'll also talk through tech tools. So what are some tools you can use in the classroom, whether it's in person or online, that our college students really like and enjoy. Also, we'll discuss AI. and what that looks like, even in our grading or even just to use it as a tool. Also, students are using it for some, not ethical reasons. So like, how do you engage that as well? And then week 6 is showing what they know. So we really do a really deep dive into assessment. And so that includes formative assessments, summative assessments, making sure grading is fair. How do you navigate, grading if students have certain circumstances, looking at content versus like, grammar, or like, how do you make a rubric? What are some assessment tools? Things of that nature. And so thinking about how do you align your instruction with your assessment and make sure that they connect. The next week is taking care of yourself, because that's very important as an adjunct. And so that week we'll talk through work-life balance, what that looks like, addressing student concerns, navigating department logistics, also fostering community among other adjuncts. And so we also talked that week about on-campus resources that can assist an adjunct with not having to do everything, basically. And so like, what are those resources and how can it fit within the context of what you teach, even if it's online or in person? And then lastly is, I call it a graduation, but it's the presentation day. And so everyone get opportunity to present, and I give questions that are usually asked in an interview setting. And so that is the last week. So that is the full scope of the curriculum. Every time we come to the Institute, other than weeks 1 and 8. So weeks 2 through 6, 2 through 7, I present for the first 30 minutes, and then we have a guest speaker who comes in on the last part of the session. Weeks 1 and 8, since that's our intro and our closing, it's just a full scope of no guest speaker basically, but it's interactive. So I'm not just lecturing for 30 minutes. We'll have activities and things like that within the session of my 30 minutes, and then the speaker comes in. And I'll talk about that in a second. All sessions, like I said before, are 1 hour once a week. When people register, they can register for a particular day that works for them. However, the content is the same each night. So even if you signed up or a person signs up for a particular group, they can always join in on the next night or the night before if it works better for them, because I send a Zoom link to everyone, no matter which group you signed up for. I just do the group so I can see what the interest is for the cohort. I will say that cohort members are only allowed 2 times to request a recorded session. And so it's really good if people can make at least 6 of the 8 sessions, or or at least you only have 2 times to request the recorded sessions. And that happens. So I'll always have the recording available for those 2 times. All right, so all participants will have the opportunity to create the following items for the application. So like I said before, the resume, the CV, the cover letter, and the teaching philosophy, all of those are in the deliverable set number 1. And so I provide guidance, like an assignment sheet, on how to complete those. And so participants complete them, and then I provide feedback on the documents. And also, I challenge people to tailor their documents to a class they would like to teach. And so that way, just get into the practice of tailoring the documents. Then lastly is deliverable set number 2. That includes the syllabus schedule, an assignment sheet, and then also a rubric. And that is for a particular course lesson within a course if the participant like to teach in. And then you also get feedback on that. So all these documents will be really great for application. And then also in an interview, they're really good talking points as well. So final logistics here. Like I said before, weeks 2 through 6, the guest speakers come in. These guest speakers teach on the college level, and it's very cool because I really provide a lot of like research based. I do give some personal experiences, but I try to use the information that's out there, so it's not just like, oh, Candace's experiences in the classroom. I like to broaden it out so that way we can just see solid, teaching practices. And so I provide that for the first 30 minutes, and I like how the guest speakers come in and just give their on-the-ground experiences as it relates to college students. And so also each week there are discussion forums to foster that community engagement. Again, sometimes people participate, sometimes they don't. So all of this is optional, but I really think it's cool if participants do all the tasks, because they really get a lot out of it. And then we will have a learning management platform for all correspondence. It's kind of like our own Blackboard, just keep everything organized. All right, so I just have 2 more slides and then we'll open up the Q&A. And so to fully enroll, attendees will need to do the following: complete the registration form, pay in full or pay the deposit. The institute is $395 for the 8-week experience. And so the options are pay in full or pay half at enrollment and half by April 16th. Also is a pay in full option through PayPal. I don't control that, but it is an option on the invoice. And so only a set number of people are included, just because I have to like provide feedback on the documents. I like to keep it pretty, you know, personable. And so when it's full, and I will announce when it's full, but applications are due April the 16th. So last slide here before I open it up. We had some pretty good feedback from the spring cohort that ended just recently, like mid-March. And so some things I like to just see what people say. Some people like the lessons from the guest speaker. Another one here about the guest speaker and trusting yourself, thinking about late assignments and how do we identify, like, you know, student concerns. Other people just talked about like the deliverable set. So the course schedule, the rubrics, the teaching philosophy, and also just the experience as a whole. So our last cohort was pretty well. And actually, I will say one of our cohort members emailed me today and said that she had an interview. Someone emailed her for an interview today, and so she was asking me, you know, how to prepare, and it aligned with what we had talked about in the institute. All right, so I'm done. Does anybody have any questions?
I had a question. As for